All right. Welcome. Welcome in, everyone. Actually, let me pause and launch this back up. Welcome to our NASP webinar series, the National Association of Sales Professionals, where we are focused on being consistently valuable to you, our members. And that being said, we've got guest of honor today, Benny Kennedy, on the line. There he is. What's going on, Benny? And we are going to talk about the psychology of persuasion today. Influence and close more deals. And very few people better than Benny Kennedy to talk about this today. In fact, if anybody better than Benny Kennedy to talk about this today, a influence master himself, a master of relationships. And Benny has an incredible history, actually. In the last 30 years, Benny has become an expert martial artist. He's also an actor. He's what I think you've done 5 movies now. Yep. Also a radio personality and a stuntman in your earlier days, I'm guessing. Yeah. And also, you were a lead investigator for some times. You worked in collections. You're also a veteran of the U.S. Navy. And not only that, but you have spent decades in sales, selling everything from grills and vacuums to nightclubs, security solutions, sales training solutions, celebrity security, cybersecurity, weapons and armor, talent management. I mean, what have you not sold, Benny Kennedy? And with that, take it away and give us some powerful insight on the psychology of persuasion.
Happy. I specifically asked for the Rick Middlemass introduction, and you couldn't have done better. Thank you very much. Boosting me up for this fantastic conversation with you all today. And first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that we see each other on a even playing field. So I am unblurring myself because this is what we're talking about when it comes to influence and persuasion. We're in a realm of truth. We're in a realm of being honest and understanding each other. So that way, when we're talking, there's a trust value that's coming across. And I know that we're looking at each other through a screen. However, in today's world, we're more and more engaging in communication in this way. So let's bring down the facade of the blurred backgrounds or the funny backgrounds and actually see each other for who we are, so we can actually have this conversation directly. I'm going to attempt to do some serious tech work and launch my sharing screen here and get into our presentation. Not my email, but we will share this screen here. So we're going to talk about the psychology of persuasion. There are many books on the subject. There's a specific book in which we're going to reference here. That is The Psychology of Persuasion, written by Robert Cialdini. And let's begin from the beginning. So, of course, that's a great picture of myself there. Sitting across from me was my wife, and she took this picture, and she said, "This picture is going to be used on a webinar in the future where you're talking about how to persuade people." Because at the given time, I was sitting at a table and I was ordering a meal that was not on the menu. And I convinced the waiter that they would want to create a specific pizza that I would like to have, which was grilled chicken and mushroom. And they didn't specifically have that on the menu. And I said, "Well, you have grilled chicken and you have mushrooms, right?" "Yeah." I said, "Well, you have a cheese pizza, right?" "Yeah." "Well, how about we just put the grilled chicken and the mushroom on the pizza and we can make a fantastic new item and you can call it the Benny." And the waiter laughed, went back, and they made the pizza. My wife took the picture of me, and that's actually at that moment. And she said, "You're going to use this on a webinar someday," which actually is a powerful influence from my wife, who influenced me to make sure I had the power to do this webinar. So the references that we have for this webinar are, of course, NASP, Truesome Vision, Dr. Robert Cialdini, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Dr. John Schindler, Robert Greene, and Dale Carnegie. These are top reference points that I'm going to be using in this webinar. Specifically have to reference doctors because we are talking about psychology, and I am not a doctor of psychology. However, I have studied psychology throughout my years in sales. It's one of the most important things in sales. You need to understand human behavior, and that's the best way for you to be able to connect and build relationships. So with that said, what is persuasion and influence? So this is a question I want to ask for you. And if you have an opportunity, look in the chat and type in what you believe persuasion and influence is. It's a question you want to ask yourself as you're going through the idea or even the concept of being able to step into a conversation with someone that you're looking to influence. And now in sales, we do this on a regular basis, and sometimes we're doing it almost instantaneously. And it's important for us to really understand what we're doing in persuasion. So when we have a definition of what we have in our mind of what something is, that is the most important part of the truth behind what you are influencing. Remember, this is the beginning stages of being able to step into this conversation, understanding what it is that you are getting ready to do or say in that conversation. It all begins with asking yourself this question: what is X, Y, and Z? So what is persuasion and influence? Our definitions of both of these are: persuasion is belief or a set of beliefs. So this is like when you say the certain persuasion is X, Y, and Z. This person represents this type of persuasion. When you're identifying someone based off of their belief or their set of beliefs. Persuasion in the action is the act of being persuaded. So the action is the act of taking a belief or a set of beliefs and putting them into action. So when you're saying someone is a certain way, you are taking that belief or that set of beliefs and using it in an action to identify how they are going to behave, which you're convincing someone to do something or belief in something that is true. Now, this is what we're going to really focus on throughout the rest of this presentation. We want to identify our beliefs in what is true as we are continuing to have a conversation with our prospects. Now, the influence, you have to have the capacity or the capability and have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something, including and not limited to the effect itself. So thinking of our persuasion, we must believe in what is true, and our influence, we must have the capability or capacity to do something in order to affect the behavior, character, or development of someone or something in order to be able to utilize these methods effectively. So being able to persuade, you must have belief in truth, and in order to influence, you must have capability or capacity. So how do we improve our sales in this manner? We read books, tons of books out there. I have tons of books behind me on my shelf, and I read all of them. Some of them I've read more than once. And you read through these books to find clarity. You want to find a strategy. You want to look for an action that you can take that someone else has actually laid out the foundation for, that you can follow the footsteps of. And a lot of these books, these are the top books, some of you may have read these: To Sell is Human, Science of Selling, Influence, as I mentioned before, the Psychology of Persuasion, and so on and so on and so on. You can also look to other individuals, the most influential salespeople: Sam Taggart, Napoleon Bargan. Zig Ziglar is one of the huge influences in my work for sales, as well as Jordan Belfort. Everybody remembers Jordan Belfort from The Wolf of Wall Street. And then, of course, Mary Kay Ash, who has created probably one of the most powerful sales devices in the Mary Kay line. I mean, who wouldn't want to drive in a pink Cadillac? That sounds like fun to me. So what is the biggest thing that's missing in all of this? All of those things that I listed, what is the biggest thing that's missing? You. You are not in any of those books. You are also not any of those individuals. The you is the most important part of what we are going to discuss. As far as the psychology of persuading someone, it must begin with yourself. You have to have an understanding of who you are and where you're coming from in order for you to be able to influence and persuade anyone or persuade anything. So discussing who you are is sometimes a little bit difficult, but it is one of the most important steps to becoming a powerful influencer. So strategies to develop through belief. So when you have a strategy in mind, as I said, you read all these books to find the right sales strategy. You find a mentor, you sit and talk amongst groups, and you're looking for the best mode and the best method in order for you to be able to succeed. And one of the things that we look to is always external. It's something that we're going to gain from something outside of ourselves in order for us to find the next level up. And it is most important to start with your own internal belief. So that's the first thing we start with. What it is that we believe to be true. And we need to identify what is true in the biggest sense, because this is the way that we are going to be able to communicate with our customer base and instill that line of influence. Then we need to identify our own capabilities. What are we capable of doing? And if there's something that we need to be able to do that is in alignment with what we believe to be true, then we also need to add more of those capabilities on. This is the biggest part of our existence on Earth. We have the capability, infinite capability, to be able to grow within our beliefs. So as we believe bigger things, we can increase our capability. So we start with our belief and then we move into our capabilities. Then we embrace fear. So this is the one thing that I see with most of the sales teams that I've brought. You want to acknowledge the fact that you are not afraid of anything. I'll go out and talk to 1,000 people a day if I have to in order to make my margins. I will make sure that I call 300 people within the next 5 hours in order to make sure that I get to the end game and my end result. I have no fear whatsoever. And what I ask for you to do is embrace the concept of the fact that there is fear and it's okay. It's okay to have fear. It's okay to have self-doubt. The one thing that I want you to do is learn how to utilize this in an equation that allows you to be able to identify with the person that you're talking to. Because guess what? That person has fear as well. That person is going through similar emotions. We all have these similar emotions, and we go through these on a daily basis. And the better you can connect with the person you're talking with, the better that communication winds up becoming in a positive influence. And you can turn the conversations into your benefit. Now, we have a way of seeing the plan. Once we take the idea of our belief of what is true and our capabilities, understanding that there's fear and doubt involved in that and utilizing it in a positive manner, we can now see the plan in front of us. Usually what we see is we go right for the plan. How can we do this? What do we need to do? How? And what is the strategy? We read the books and we have to go through every single step that Dale Carnegie said in order to how to influence people. I need to go through every single step. And what we realize in that book is it's a bunch of stories about how people went through certain situations. And what we are needing to discern from that is how we can adapt and how we can put ourselves in those situations and see ourselves through that in order to be able to get the strategy, which means we need to believe the story that we're hearing. We also need to see if our capabilities match the story and increase our capabilities and match with what's going on in that specific circumstance. And then we need to identify what our own doubts and fears are in order to be able to see the strategy clearly. And I hope that makes sense. When you put this in an equation, you would actually see benefits from the result. And this equation is belief plus capacity or capability divided by fear equals the strategy. And I'm giving you this equation for you to be able to walk through the rest of this presentation with me, understanding that where we are working from is a place of belief, an understanding of capacity and capability, and in harnessing our emotion, our fear, our emotion, in order to be able to develop a clear strategy on how we're going to communicate with people. So what is strategy? A plan, a method, a series of maneuvers for obtaining a specific goal. What is belief? An acceptance that is a statement is true, or that is something that exists. You have faith, trust in something, confident. Your capacity is the ability or power to do, experience, or understand something. And then your fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that something or someone is dangerous. So when we talk about these things, the wonderful mind works in a fantastic way. And this is where we really dive into the psychology of this. So when we're looking to influence people, or we're looking to persuade someone in a conversation, the most effective way for us to be able to connect is to understand how our own brain works. And in the conscious realm, like currently right now, as I'm talking to you in my conscious mind. And my subconscious is activating all of the information that I've already stored over my lifetime in order to be able to access the information to give you this presentation. So in my conscious mind, I have my logic, reason, and creativity. And using my will through my analytical mind, I'm tapping into my subconscious. And we borrow this from Dr. Joe Dispenza, who identifies 5% of our conscious mind, 5% of our mind is conscious, and 95% of our mind is subconscious, where we find in that subconscious and unconscious mind our skills, habits, emotional reactions, hardwired behaviors, these things that just are just attached to us from birth, 6 years old and above, that we just don't know why we have them, but that's just how we are. Our conditioned responses, our associative memories, our memories and our subconscious are dated back before we're even born. And they are active in our brain and able to be accessed by our subconscious mind when we are in emotion consciously. So we also have our routines and thoughts and feelings, our attitudes, our beliefs, and our perceptions, all put together to create our identity and who we are. And this is something that our brain does to keep us safe. It makes us operate in a safe way. Our subconscious is not looking to do anything harmful at all to us, even though at times we want to say that our subconscious mind may get in the way of our dreams and our desires. It's that communication that we're looking to get better at with our subconscious to be able to improve our skills, update and change our habits when necessary. Our emotional reactions and our hardwired behaviors can be modified in order to identify and connect with whatever we're looking to do in the future. And this is all about influence. And once we start to understand how to discuss and persuade and influence our own subconscious mind, which is probably one of the most powerful items in or connections that we can ever work with, we then can see how we can do this communication externally, starting internally from the inside out. Remember, we have 86 neurons, and yes, there could be 100 billion if you look at the math in certain ways. If you count neurons, I'm not a doctor. I don't know how to count neurons. However, there are scientists that count neurons in specific ways that they'll say there's 86 billion. Some say there's 100 billion. Either way, there's still a lot of neurons in your brain. And of 5% of them, we are actively using consciously. And our brain is a supercomputer. It's a powerful mechanism that's able to discern all types of information, and 5% of it is used to work with our cognitive flexibility. This leaves our subconscious mind running 95% of what we think. Our thoughts control our feelings and our choices. Throughout this entire presentation, we're really going to tap back into understanding a little bit more how we connect from our subconscious mind and our conscious mind, and how we're able to connect evenly and allow the information that comes from our conscious mind into our subconscious mind to be reflected back with more accuracy and kind of like a ping pong battle. So therefore, the subconscious mind is the powerful driver in determining our actions and our ultimately the outcome of our lives. And the subconscious mind controls our emotions and thoughts. This means that if we have fear, it's stored in our subconscious mind. So this is where we're going back to that fear thing. And regardless of whether or not you are aware of the fears you have, your subconscious mind is aware of them. Your subconscious and unconscious are aware of everything you've seen, everything you've done, every place you've been is all stored in your subconscious mind. And when it is triggered, when unknowingly to yourself, when you are going through your conscious efforts and you're in the external world. So you may come across a smell, you may come across a color, you may see a car, you may see some type of an image. Something can trigger your subconscious to bring forward a memory or a thought or a pattern that activates this emotion in you that could be discerned as fear. And we want to be aware of these things and connect better. This is what I was talking about earlier, that ping pong battle that we're going to develop with our subconscious and our unconscious mind. So this is the time that I really want everybody to step back and say, okay, what is all this stuff Benny's talking about? Through a lot of information. So if you have any questions, I ask that you go ahead and use the chat feature. I want to be able to look at these questions and be able to respond to you in time. I know that this isn't a realm where we can have questions where your hands are raised or things of that nature. At the same time, I do want you to take a moment to think about what I'm presenting to you. In order to influence or persuade in any way, it needs to begin with your internal self, talking with yourself, and the understanding of what you are going to be doing. So, in a sense of what we're talking about here, I'll give myself as an example. So, this can be considered an interaction in a sales call. I'm doing this presentation in order to influence you on the information that I am giving you. So in order to prepare myself, I need to, one, believe in the fact that I do know what I'm talking about. I know that I have references that I can go back on how I have influenced people. And I've taken this information and utilize it in a positive manner. And this is the term where ethical persuasion comes in, because the only way that you're able to truly persuade someone is ethical. Persuading and influencing someone must come from a place of truth. And in order to come from a place of truth, you must believe in what you're talking about. So that's why it always stems from belief. And when I believe in what I'm doing and believe in what I'm saying, I then can tap into the capabilities that I have in order to be able to make this presentation in the first place, where I can utilize the computer and I can utilize Rick Middlemass as a great introduction, and we can have this system in order to be able to present this to you in a certain fashion. So once we put those capabilities together, I have to shake off the fear, right? Am I going to be able to talk to all these people? Are they going to listen to me? I can't see their faces. I don't know what's going on. I have to shake through that, right? In order to be able to get myself in the right state. And that means I need to adapt to the fear and understand that I can discuss with my subconscious that we have references of doing this successfully in the past. And even if I don't have references, I can imagine those references, which we are going to get to in just a minute. So belief, back on track. The law of belief says, whatever you believe and feel to be true long enough will become your reality. And I'll say this again. Whatever you believe and feel, it's important to understand the two things. You're believing it and you're bringing the emotion of how you feel into it. And then you're believing it to be true long enough, it will become your reality. So that means repetition in most cases. That also means an extension of time, just understanding that it takes time to consistently be in the state of belief. To believe something and feel it to be true long enough makes it your reality. As a recap, in order to persuade, we must believe. In order to influence, we must have capacity or capability. Putting the equation together, belief plus capability divided by fear equals a strategy or a plan. This is necessary in order to begin the conversation of influence. So let's have a mind conversation. So we're going to put you, well, I'm going to put you in a specific state. So imagine that you have an idea. It's backed by desire, inspiration, sparks when you accept that there's a possibility of growth. And you also have your conscious mind. Your conscious mind is the decision maker who evaluates, learns, and grows and can justify with thinking subjectively, which is creating belief from circumstance, with limited energy controlled 5% of what we do. And you have your wonderful emotion. We do everything for emotion. We can't control emotion. Even though we try, we can't control emotion. It's going to come up. You're going to have an emotion. But even though we can't control it, we can work well together when emotion is present. When we're excited about something, we really do have an energy that's felt by others around us. And emotion is the reason why we do everything. We all have heard this in sales. People buy for emotional reasons and they back it up with reason. So we have to have that emotion in order to make the decision. Then we have our wonderful subconscious mind. The subconscious and unconscious mind, which really doesn't have all of that extra kerfuffle. It is a simple mainframe computer that stores data and utilizes data and moves data around to keep us safe. It is the mind that is objective. It interprets circumstance from universal law, connected to the universe, connected to God, if that suits you. It is controlled by 95% of what we do and predominantly is interested in certainty and survival and checks with the identity before taking any action. So it's connected completely with who we are truly and based off of all of our experiences in life. And we have our identity. Then our identity is the strongest force in human nature. There is no other force stronger than I am. Who you are and stated firmly into your being is the most powerful thing in existence. And it tells the unconscious mind what to do and can be influenced by our imagination, because our imagination is more powerful than knowledge. It can identify completely with who we are, even though it doesn't necessarily exist, because the subconscious mind and in our identity, it cannot discern the difference between reality and a well-planned out imagined thought. And this is scientifically backed and proven. So our imagination can also communicate between our conscious mind and our subconscious mind, which leads me to a wonderful diagram that I want to share. And this is kind of a play out. I watched this done. Rod Harrison does a fantastic presentation on this live and in person. If you ever get a chance to see a live presentation where Rod does the mind model, I would suggest you either get a camera out and record it or definitely pay attention 100% because it is a fascinating thing to watch live. So I'm going to give you this in more of a pictorial. So we have our wonderful desire, our thing that we think about that we believe can happen, right? And our conscious mind has identified with that desire, and we have thoughts about how we can actually make this happen. And we use our subjective nature in order to be able to connect with our belief in this desire, which brings emotion around. Now we're having a good time. We're actually feeling great about what we're doing, or feeling excited, or feeling love, or feeling whatever we're feeling, making us happy about this newfound idea. Now, typically what happens is we run into our subconscious. And then our subconscious wants to identify what's going on, because this is something different. This is something that we're not used to seeing. This is something that I'm not exactly sure where we're going here. And this may put us in a dangerous space because it doesn't connect with our identity. Can you explain yourself? Was what subconscious tends to send notes to us. Because what subconscious has done is it has gone directly to our identity and asked the question, is this us? Is this who we are? Is this what we do? And our subconscious identity is saying, I don't have any reference to this. I have no idea about what's going on here. And it seems to be something that's external, and we need to dismiss it because it's not part of who we are. And then taps into our imagination, where our imagination can pull all of the references that we have from every time that we've ever failed, every time we tripped and fell, every time that we tried this thing before and didn't happen, every time that someone else told us we weren't going to do it, and reminds us of the time that our mom and our dad and our uncle and our friend, and so on and so on and so on. And now the emotions that we were having tend to turn against us. What we would feel like turn against us. However, it's our subconscious that's utilizing our emotions now in its favor to keep us safe. And this is what's considered the unconditioned mind. Most people run in this pattern. Most people consistently run in this pattern. And if you take no action on being able to clean this this up to be able to move in a even way, you tend to find yourself prey to the subconscious, and it'll keep you safe. You won't do anything outside of your identity for sure, and you'll just be able to do the mundane details of whatever your subconscious mind dictates. And your subconscious is always in the past. It's always thinking about what you did, not what you're doing. And when you connect more with your mind and actually turn into a more conditioned mind, this is how the pattern tends to work out. You have your idea, you have your identity connecting with that idea, and now you have the emotion that's pulling on and it's really holding tight to whatever you're doing. Notice that it's tighter. The idea is tighter, the desire is tighter, and the emotion's tighter because you're focusing more on keeping everything in alignment. And you can actively then bring in your imagination. You consciously activate your imagination. You have your idea and you have your emotion, and now you can see it. You can see what's happening take place. This is how we train our mind. We utilize the power of our imagination. Remember, our imagination can completely communicate with our subconscious and our conscious mind. And we work with that imagination to lay out in detail to communicate to our identity. And remember, our identity does not discern the difference between a really clear, thought out, imagined thought and what's really happening in reality. So as we identify with this imagined thought, we now have given our subconscious ample information that our identity can talk with our subconscious and say, this is us. This is who we are. This is what we do. And our subconscious now has absolutely no choice but to align with our original thought and make it into reality. I'll share a quote with you on this. This is from one of my favorite books. It's The Science of Getting Rich. And it's a repeated quote that's in the book that says, there is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which, in its original state, permeates, penetrates, and fills the interspaces of the universe. A thought in this substance produces a thing that is imaged by the thought. So anytime you take a moment to think about something that you want to do, it is immediately pressed into existence. And this is one of those esoterical things, whether or not you are aligned with it or not, it will exist because you thought of it. Because you thought of it, and this is played out throughout all of the books that are written on success or creation or making things happen or doing things better. Your thinking is how you will get things done. So if you imagine a mansion on a hill, you can rest assured that mansion on a hill exists. It is your job to align in order to get to it. And this is a process in which you do that, utilizing your imagination to clearly connect with your identity in order to store enough information for your subconscious to align with your thought. Cool? Cool. I enjoy the manipulation, so to speak. This is about the only time I think of manipulation. When you're manipulating the ideas inside your subconscious mind. Because regardless of what we do, our subconscious mind is active. It is active 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It takes no breaks. And when we rest consciously, we give the opportunity for our subconscious to run wild. And if you take steps to actively influence your subconscious through your conscious activity during the time of which you're resting and your subconscious is active, you can manipulate the thoughts that are happening in your subconscious that will support you in the following day. So when you wake up, you can be refreshed. There's methods and ways of doing meditations as well as doing having mantras and several different things. Specifically, what we do is we in Sales Mastery for National Association of Sales Professionals, we go through a series of visions. And as you consistently read these visions over the course of several weeks, you continuously reprogram and recondition your mind to think on a better pattern. And then your subconscious starts to take a growth of its own in alignment with your conscious thought. So, what does that have to do with connecting with your customers? Well, we'll get to that next. So, 6 emotional needs. This is Dr. John Schindler. Dr. John Schindler, a very, very fantastic doctor, put together the idea that every human being has 6 emotional needs. And this is scientifically backed by the work done with patients who, under medication, were seeing a specific result. And I'm generalizing this there. I definitely, you definitely would want to take a look at the book, How to Live 365 Days a Year, to get more details on this. But for the sake of the presentation, let's the patients that were going through specific therapies were only getting a specific result. And once the 6 emotional needs were identified, it was seen that these patients would get better when these emotional needs were met. So when we're looking at growth, certainty, connection, variety, self-esteem, or significance, these individual emotions that are felt through each one of us can be discerned in the conversation. So when you're talking with someone, you can tell through the conversation whether or not they are looking for a little variety. They may have some certain attributes or certain emotional outbursts, or even just hand movements, or just body movements that can show you that they need a little bit of extra more than what was being provided. They need more variety. Or if it's less talk about themselves and more talk about, well, other people are better at things than they are, then they may have some self-esteem. A lot of people in our sales conversations really need significance, whether they're being boisterous about it or whether or not they are just simply needing significance based on the fact that they have been working their butt off and no recognition has been given, and only a little significance would spark their interest in what you're saying, because they're just so nose to the grindstone and stuck on what they're doing. And if you just give them just a little bit of significance, they may turn your way. Connection is a big thing that almost everyone wants, specifically in a sales connection, because sales communication, because why are they there? If someone is communicating with you on a product or a service, obviously they want to connect with you. And they also want certainty. People are only asking you for specific information because they want to feel certain about what they are learning about from you. And as far as growth is concerned, I believe all of us want growth in some capacity. So the top 3, growth, certainty, and connection, you can almost guarantee that the person you're talking to has to have these 3 fulfilled in some way. And then the bottom 3, you can discern throughout the conversation when you're asking questions. 6 emotional needs. So the biggest part of this conversation, as we've gone through understanding that in order to influence someone or persuade someone, it must be through persuasion, has to be belief in what is true. In order to influence, it must be through our capability. We must have some capability or capacity to do what it is that we're looking to influence someone else to do. If you are a carpenter and you have built a house for every day in the last 365 days, I'm pretty sure you're able to influence someone about how to build a house. If you've never done it before at all and you're looking to influence someone, it's going to take a lot more effort, a lot more backing, and a lot more persuasion in order to get someone to believe that you can build a house. So these 6 principles of persuasion developed by Dr. Robert Cialdini, and I would definitely encourage you to read his books, several books, are giving you the basic format of how to utilize specific methods of persuasion. And these are proven. So reciprocity, of course, if you give something to someone and you will get something in return. The law of reciprocity states that if you give something in kind, you will receive an unexpected gift in return. And this has been proven in the service industry, where they actually did a study on waitresses or servers. So if a server comes to at the end of the bill, they usually hand end of the meal, they give you the bill, and typically sometimes they'll give you like a mint or some type of a little cookie or something as a means of just saying thank you, a little after dinner, a little snack or something that doesn't cost anything to you. It's just an extra benefit. Now, you wouldn't think that that would have anything to do with the bill, of course, or the tip, because the tip has to do with the service, right? Well, what they found is that just by giving a mint, the tips were increased by 4%. And then if they gave 2, the tips would increase by 14%. This is like triple the amount of increase just for giving 2. And the most fascinating part is that when the waitress or waiter would give just 1 mint, leave the table, and then return to the table afterwards, they would and state something to the effect of, I have had such a fantastic time with you as a customer of ours, and I want to give you an additional mint just because it's you. This is specific for you and for you only. Thank you for your service. They would get an increase of 23% in a tip. So this basically proves that if you were to give something, not only just give something, but in kind, do it genuinely from where you are. The truth factor strikes forward. You must believe truthfully in what you're giving. And if you do it with sincerity, the reciprocation is magnified. Commitment, desire to maintain consistency, is based off of the idea of just giving something, just getting a little bit at a time. If you're looking for a large deal, so let's say you have a service that actually is for a year-long or 5-year-long contract, and you're having a hard time getting this person to commit. We want to be able to use this method of persuasion using commitment by getting just a smaller commitment. Get them to commit to something lesser than the larger deal, and that way, through time and through consistency, you can actually work your way through getting the larger commitment. Because what that person is looking for is something that's not as grand. They want to see something a little less. They may be on a hook for the idea of working with you. It's just the bigger thing is just too much. So we want to break it down to something a little smaller, bite-sized deals, so that way we can work to the bigger deal. Social proof, we see this consistently on social media. As we look at the term influencer overused on a regular basis in the social media world, we want to see social proof not only as something as the desire to follow somebody that we are similar to, but we were looking to follow someone who actually has some type of a magnanimous viewpoint, like if they have a ton of followers or they have a lot of posts or they tend to like or comment on the same type of or genre, they have that proof that backs up the story. Liking is pretty self-explanatory. You want to be able to be liked. You want to be likable. You want to have a likable attitude. You want to be connecting, using eye contact. You want to have good body language in person. You also want to have good body language in the camera setting instead of, hanging off to the side of the camera or looking at the top of someone's head. We want to have a full view of people and be likable across whether it be a camera or in person. Authority, anytime you put up an authority of anything, a certification in a doctor's office basically states that you got to listen to that person, and you're more apt to listen to them because they have that certification. Multiple certifications on a wall tend to act as though that person really knows what they're talking about, and you really want to listen to what they're saying. It's kind of why I keep my certifications on the wall. And scarcity, that's one of the biggest ones that is overused in a negative way in sales and can be used in a positive way. When you see the countdown on the ticker on a landing page that says you only have a certain amount of time to get this item because it's going to be gone, or you say that we only have 10 seats and that's it. You should get an email that says there's only 5 seats left or 5 tickets available left to this event. It tends to ignite something in us psychologically to take action. And one of the stories that I heard about this was with the British Airways that canceled their international flights. And the day that they canceled those international flights, the next day they had a boost in sales of over 38%. And it was unexpected, but they noticed that it was mainly because they told people that they were not going to be able to get this flight. So out of nowhere, people automatically started booking the flight. How do we connect these with our emotional needs? Well, reciprocity has to do with growth. So if you find someone who is looking for growth, you can utilize the principles of persuasion and use reciprocity. When someone is needing a self-esteem, obviously they can use a commitment. If you are going to consistently tell them that they are good and they can consistently keep coming to you and build on top of their self-esteem, then the commitment route is probably the best means of persuasion. Variety is definitely on the social proof side. If you have somebody who's looking for variety and is looking for a little bit more than what they're seeing in front of them, connect that to a social proof, stating that what everyone else is seeing in this product and this service, this is connected to the truth that you're presenting. And this principle of persuasion definitely works in that sense. For likability, connection. If you want to express a connection to someone, be likable. And being likable in turn is meant for building a relationship. You want to know more about the person, get to know what their birthday is, know if they have children or not, see if they have an anniversary coming up, learn more about their business and their business structure, what their title is and how they got to the position in the first place. Learning these things increases your likability. And then, of course, certainty brings authority. When you have someone who looks for the certainty, you want to quote the actual authority behind whatever you're selling. If you have a degree or if you have a certification or if you have anything, bring that up in the conversation in order to connect and utilize this means of persuasion, this principle of persuasion with the person that's desiring certainty. And of course, as far as scarcity is concerned, we definitely want to make sure that we're looking and to connect with them. Mainly, I'm not a fan of scarcity. However, utilizing scarcity as a means of persuasion is always a key method of basically showing them the value. So I would rather look at this as saying present value in this sense. When you're looking for someone who's looking for value, you really want to connect with them on that way of showing you just how valuable these items are and how valuable it's going to be to them in whatever world that they live in. Okay, again, this was actually created in case there was a way that we can actually communicate, but I see that we really I can't hear your questions or comments, but you definitely can line them up in the chat. You can also email me at benny.kennedy@nasp.com. I'm also available on all social medias at Benny Lee Kennedy. And LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably the best way to connect. I look forward to being able to connect with any one of you on this. We are going to have many more of these in the future. So if you connect with me on LinkedIn, I'll make sure that you get connected with the links for all of those. And again, in social media, I'm always on, and emails. I also say I can take carrier pigeons, smoke signals, however you like to communicate. But this call to action for every one of you, I believe we have like 58, 59 people on the call. Every one of you, I want you to take this call to action. 1, book a free one-on-one virtual time with me. I love talking with people and helping people help other people. So if you have any questions in regards to how you want to communicate better with your customers, or you just want to role play on something, or you want to talk about how you want to just better yourself in the sales world, I can, if I can't give you the answers, I know that I can connect you with someone who can. So let's book a one-on-one using my email address as a means to do that. Also, take the seller style assessment. If you are in sales, this is a key factor for you to be able to identify more on who you are and actually find the means of being able to improve that identity. And then remember that strength and belief in your identity helps you to be able to connect more with your subconscious. So go to NASP.com, look for the seller style assessment. I'm sure that Rick is going to be able to make sure that you have links for this. Take the seller style assessment. And if you have taken it before, take it again, because you will see some changes. And if you don't see changes, well, that's fine too. You're still you're still actively pressing on your identity to improve yourself even more. So the seller style assessment is always a great tool. Enroll in the daily success principles. It's for free. If you are an NASP member, you can access this for free. Some of the most valuable information that I have seen, it just pours out on a daily basis, and it comes to you in an email. So when you're looking and you're hitting that one hard road, what we call deception, and you're sitting there going, I don't know what to do next, check your inbox for a daily success principle, and it'll pull you right out of that and get you in a state for the next sales call. Enroll in one of the following programs: the CPSP, the Certified Professional Salesperson, the fantastic certification, internationally recognized, and will help you gain more clarity on how you want to communicate with your customers. The CPSL, which is for leaders, those who are leading a team, take the principles of the CPSP and apply it to your team. The ASI, which is Advanced Sales Influence, all of the things that I was talking to you about today, magnified in understanding how to talk to people directly using archetypes and understanding more about patterns. Advanced Sales Influence, very strong for those of you who are advanced in sales. And if you've already taken one of these programs and have graduated, you must enroll in Sales Mastery. I can't stress that enough. We go through this on a regular basis. I've been a member in Sales Mastery for close to 4 years now, and I've gained something out of every single meeting. On a regular basis, we go over visions and we identify every specific thing that we would want to do to improve ourselves 1% at a time, and increasing our productivity over the course of the year by 37%. So that is my presentation for today. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to meeting with you again. Book a one-on-one with me. There's going to be a link that Rick is providing for you to go ahead and do that. Just really quick. Yep, in the chat, there's links available for you to go after. Thank you, Rick. Thank you for everyone else for your time, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next call.
Awesome. Took a second for me to load there. Incredible webinar, Benny. Thank you so much for sharing your genius. A whole lot of detail on the psychology of persuasion there. Nailed it. Benny's meeting link is in the chat. There's a few spots available still. Highly recommend booking a call with him and get some insight on your personal persuasion and influence situation. What are you selling? How are you selling it? Get some feedback from this man while it is available. Spots are limited, literally, on his calendar. Have an incredible rest of your Thursday, y'all, and looking forward to seeing you soon. Thank you so much, Benny. Awesome job. Bye, y'all.